Hello everyone, welcome to the Northland Artists Conversation. My name is Mark Kelly, I am your guest. No, I'm not your guest, I'm your bloody host. It is the 29th of July as we record this podcast. This will come out sometime in August, September. We've had a wonderful guest on tonight, and she was cool, but I can promise you, if you're watching this video, it's pissing down with rain. And I don't mean like, oh, it's a light drizzle. I mean, I am sitting here absolutely saturated. My glasses are all fogged up. Things are looking bizarre as anything. I'm tapping my glasses on my pants to try and get some of the water off. I'd use my shirt, but the shirt's more sodden than my glasses. I'm going to go to my camera now. Today's guest, I sound out of breath. I ran. For every guest that comes in, I will always walk them back to their car. We'll have a bit of a chat about how they felt the podcast went. And I'll bid them, a farewell and drive safe, because it's the right thing to do, yeah? Even though it's still hosing down with rain outside, I still chose to do that. Our wonderful guest today is Nora Flowers. Now, Nora comes to us from Lithuania. And not the Lithuania that we know now, but the Lithuania when it was still part of the USSR. Sorry, I had to run back. And this whole podcast for me was such an eye-opener. I always say I want to learn at least one or two things from all our guests that come in, but I learned a ridiculous amount from Nora, and she was so cool. And for someone who's, English is her fourth language. Man, she did really well. She was so cool. Super cool lady. We had a few laughs. Got into some serious points as well. So let's sit down and have a conversation with Nora Flowers. Get that Nina Simone going on.
Oh, well, yeah.
Cinnamon. Great track by Nina Simone. That rolling piano line is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those very cool things. I first, it was so funny. She's been around for such a long time, but the first time I ever heard of her was in the film The Thomas Crown Affair. With Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo. There's a great scene in that movie where the police are trying to chase Pierce Brosnan because he's a bad guy, and then he's hired multiple people to look like him, so the cops are all confused. Yeah. And it's just that beautiful rolling piano line. But yeah, a great track. It's wonderful. In case you didn't know, we're rolling.
It's always good to know.
I know. But see, that's how we start.
Yes.
There's nothing specific. It is what it is, really.
Yes.
And Lee will leave in the Cinnamon part, which is cool.
Fantastic.
It's just I don't know. Okay, let me get the formal introduction out of the way.
Okay.
Nora Flowers. Thank you so much for joining us on the Northland Artists Conversation podcast. I almost forgot the name of my own goddamn podcast. We're off to a flying start. All right. So before the mic started rolling, you were telling me about your time as a child in a dentist's chair. Let's talk about that.
I was talking more about your nurse's abilities, not about my teeth. You just allowed me to open my mouth.
That's it. Yeah, just let it flow.
Yes.
Let it flow. Thank you so much for reaching out, because you reached out to us via Facebook, if I remember rightly, and you were like, "Hey, I'm an artist. What you guys are doing? This is all. I'm not. There's not the exact words. I'm going to put my own interpretation on them. You guys are amazing and awesome and legendary, and I would be humbled and privileged to be on your podcast if you would ever so graciously consider me."
That is exactly what I want to say. And I don't have to, you see. All I can do is I just second. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
No, it's cool for us because I did, with every guest that comes on, we get our guests to fill out these forms, right? And really what it is so I can kind of go through and have a bit of a read and learn more about you, about the person we're about to interview, right? But I went through, and I do this with everyone. I go through and I have a look at their social media and just check things out. And you're a pretty amazing artist.
Thank you.
You're not in just kind of one little discipline.
No.
You're multidisciplinary, right?
Yes.
You've got a few things that you're pretty good at.
Thank you.
So my question to you is, where have you been hiding?
Well, good question.
That's what we're here for, the good questions.
Good question must have a good answer. I believe I was hiding behind simply knowing that I am multi-talented.
So you were hiding behind that awesomeness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because as we talked earlier, to be an artist and promote yourself,
Yep.
that has never been my style. That has never been style in my family and society. I'm not 20 years old, born with a telephone. We have a little bit different standards, and they come out with a telephone.
Yeah.
Right?
You weren't born into the TikTok generation.
No. So I somehow was forced to wait until somebody says, "Oh, she can sing."
Yeah.
Then I say, "Oh, okay, I'll try." Yeah.
But you don't only just sing or do music. You do a whole bunch of other things as well.
I do.
You sit in bathtubs and it looks amazing. There you go. That's a reference to let you know I actually did check out your social media page.
You see me in the bath.
Yeah. Look, for those of you that are looking for additional context, on your Facebook page, there is a wonderful photo of you promoting your event at 116, and you're clothed sitting in a bathtub, and it's kind of very moody and atmospheric.
Thank you.
And it is, and you're kind of looking off to the side, very, very, in a very pondering, pensive, thoughtful kind of way. That's what I mean by the bath. I didn't mean anything untowards or inappropriate.
That was my photographer, actually.
Yeah, great
who
idea.
Put me into a bath.
Yeah. Sure, why not?
Why not?
I mean,
True.
metal bands will always stand behind brick walls and will do all sort of things to look staunch and tough.
Yes,
Why
some
can't
factory.
you? That's it, a factory. Why can't you be in a bathtub?
Oh, why not?
But it looked like a good bathtub too. It didn't look like one of the plastic ones. It looked like a
it's
cast
real
iron.
one.
Yeah.
It's old cast iron.
So good.
Yes.
So what, apart from singing, what are some of the other disciplines that you do?
Yeah, well, I am a fashion designer and
Yes.
a textile artist.
Mhm.
That is my a high education. This is where I have my master's degree.
Yeah.
From childhood, I was going to music school, and music
Oh,
was
wow.
always with me.
Yeah.
And from 16, I was singing in a quite famous little women's quartet,
Yes.
and it calls Tris Keturose, which means 3 in 4.
Yes.
And we were singing Lithuanian, ancient, traditional ritual music.
And now I'm glad you said the name of your band, because when I was looking through your bio, I was very worried that I would massacre the name quite badly. I was going to go with.
You can
Try.
try.
I was going to say Tries Cutie Roisi.
Oh, sounds very French.
Very French. But because now you're not from New Zealand.
No.
You're originally from Lithuania.
Yes.
Now this is very cool because we've had, we've had such a diverse range of people from around the world that have, for one way or another, found themselves in New Zealand, and then in New Zealand whangarei. So I'm going to ask the question that I guess I'm always fascinated in, because I grew up in the schooling system in New Zealand, and it was okay. It could be better, could be worse. But what was it like growing up in Lithuania, doing schoolwork, and then finding sort of creativity along the way?
I grew up in Lithuania, still in Soviets.
The USSR?
Yes.
Wow.
We were part of Soviets. I think we were 16 or 17 republics.
Was this the Mikhail Gorbachev era?
Gorbachev was towards the very end. He pretty
Right,
much
okay.
allowed us to conquer the Soviet Union.
Wow.
And I'm proud to say that Lithuania was the first country to jump out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was big years.
That-
That was
that-
the beginning of 90s.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a huge moment. I mean, I'm
Yes.
I'm only, 90s. Yes, I'd have been about 15 at the time. And I remember that being a big deal at school. And, because that's when, I was like fourth or sixth form when that sort of started happening. And I remember it was absolutely massive at the time. So what was it like for you initially being part of one big conglomerate or group of countries and then sort of getting out? What was your perspective on that?
First of all, that I could call it political
Yeah.
freedom of that term, what we were having like a claim, all of us.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
felt like we are Homo Sovieticus.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
is big, because if you imagine to be growing up and knowing that you will never go abroad,
Yeah. Yeah.
you will never have a good genes,
Yeah.
you will never have anything what normal people have in the
Yeah.
West, and that was very important. Like you say, you were a teenager.
Yeah.
I was older than that, but we, as a teenagers, we grew up like that. Our genes were smuggled somewhere, from somebody goes somewhere, they buy and they sell
yeah,
them,
yeah.
they brought us that from Poland, from Bulgaria, all these things, and it was very exotic.
Yeah.
Yugoslavia came with some better shoes.
Yeah.
Besides that, what we didn't have, I want to tell what we did have.
Yeah, please.
Nobody likes to remember good things from Soviet Union, but I'm a person who see every stick having two ends.
Yes.
So, as I already mentioned, we were 16, I think, sorry if it was 17, republics. That means there was no borders. We could go anywhere we liked.
Of course, yeah.
So,
yeah.
being student, then it was very cheap to travel.
Yeah.
Train
Yeah.
or airplane, it was extremely cheap. So I went through all the Soviet Union. I haven't been in Siberia, which is not a republic, it's an area.
Yeah.
I haven't been in Azerbaijan, and I haven't been in Armenia.
Oh, wow.
For some interesting reason.
Okay.
All the other republics I've been. I've
Yeah.
tasted the culture, I've tasted the food, and we had a Russian language which took us anywhere. We could talk to
Wow.
anyone, because Russian was secondary language for all these republics. We were bilingual countries, and in Lithuania, for example, if you walk on the street, it's two plates with street names
So you'd
in
have
Lithuanian and in
in
Russian.
Russian. Wow.
All the documents, for example, a passport, you open first page, it's
Yeah.
in Lithuanian, then in Russian.
Wow.
Even the formation of names,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we were made like to sound like we are Russians.
Oh, wow.
Yes, in the Russian part, I was Ingrida Stanislavovna, which means I am Stanislova's daughter.
Yeah, yeah.
So if somebody reads that, they could easily think that we are Russians, which we were not. And where did I go with that? Oh, to tell the good things. So yeah, the traveling was
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
It
And-
was a huge group of countries at the time.
Yes.
And, you know, the freedom to be able to go around and see so much.
Yes, we were not free to go out of that world,
Yeah,
but in
yeah.
that world we were free to go wherever we wanted.
Yeah.
Not very many people did that, but some people did. Just like now,
Yeah.
I don't meet very many North Islanders who have been in South Island.
Yeah.
They just don't go. They go to Aussie, they go to
Yeah.
Europe, America, but South Island is like nothing to watch. Oh,
That's
dear.
funny. If producer Andrew was here, we could both have a joke at his expense. He's never left Northland.
Here you go, virginity.
Exactly. Producer Andrew is a travel virgin.
Absolutely travel agent.
So, as someone growing up in the USSR, and going through schooling, when did you start discovering you had a bit of a creative side?
I had it always.
Really, just right from
From kindergarten.
super child. Wow.
I remember my. I've committed a crime in kindergarten. I stole green pencil.
And that was your crime,
Yes.
a green pencil.
Yes, I needed exactly that green. That green was, you're gonna laugh, but the color is pretty much like cow shit, you know that. And then I was 5 years old, and then I already understood that I have 3 or 4 greens at home, and this green what I need for warm forest to draw for the grass.
Right.
And I stole it because again at the kindies we've got new boxes of pencils.
Right.
And I came home with that, and my mom said, tomorrow you're gonna take it and bring it back.
Wow.
Take it back.
Take it back.
Oh,
Right. And your
man.
crime was stealing one green pencil.
Yes.
Look, you know, it's quite lightweight.
But you don't know what was harder.
Okay, we're taking it back? Like
To
giving
give
like
it
not
back and not
actually-
to have again?
Yeah.
That was harder than
Did you-
just to say, I really needed this green.
Did you use it to complete what you needed, though?
Oh, yes, of course.
Of course. All right. So
Of
you start off
course.
with a full pencil, and by the
Yes,
time you take it
yeah,
back, there's a
it was a little bit more than half. It's so true.
Brilliant.
It's so true.
So you started off drawing, and that was
Yes.
kind of your main thing.
Yes.
Where did you sort of move to from there? Because you'd mentioned before that you've got your masters in textiles.
Yes.
So did you sort of go from drawing into drawing for costume and that sort of stuff, or was there something in between?
I believe as every girl in that age, I really loved, we had these paper dolls and then the clip on the dresses, what we made ourselves with special things.
Right,
like
I thought you were meaning the
that is-
nesting dolls, because they're quite lovely as well.
nesting dolls, what's that?
The Russian nesting dolls? They're the little dolls that you put inside each other.
Oh, you call them nesting? Oh,
Yeah.
matryoshkas. No, I played with
Well, actual
matryoshkas. We
dolls.
didn't play because it was like not good tone to play or enjoy very openly Russian things, because
Right.
I am telling good things, but underneath
Yeah.
Russia was occupant, right?
Yeah,
We
or,
were occupied by Russia.
Communist country?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We were made to be communists.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were made, and that this is where I was trying to come in. So Soviet culture was very interesting in the way that, let's remember that Lithuania, before Soviets came, Lithuania is like Poland, like Italy.
Really?
We are high Catholic countries.
Right.
Very high.
Very,
Catholic.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we hold a lot of deep, juicy, old pagan traditions. What, of course, Christianity was based on the top.
Yep. Yep.
So then you put together now real old paganism, Christianity, communism, and put all that in the one pot.
That's a
That is
hell of a
bit
lot
of-
to live with.
That
yeah.
is a bit of alchemy.
Yes, it is.
So to be a good Catholic, to be a good, like, so-called young communist, because we were
Yeah.
forced to become them, in order to get into any university,
Yeah.
you had to be young Communist Party
Wow.
member. Yes.
So you almost didn't get a choice if you wanted
No.
to progress.
No, pretty much no.
Wow.
You could go without, but then you have 100 times more hardships.
Yeah, limited options.
And immediately
Yeah, wow.
you have a tail. Yeah, we had it anyway, KGB. If you don't have that ticket,
Yeah.
KGB is around you constantly.
That's terrifying.
Yes, it is.
What a... But
Yes,
then,
it
oh, okay. So, I mean, I can look at it from the Kiwi perspective and go, how did you live like that? And you can look back on it now and go, how did I live like that? But at the time, that's all you knew, right?
Exactly.
So, wow.
It was like a jumping through the mean
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one girl, I was around 16, 17, I guess, maybe 18, coming to me and saying, I've noticed this guy is like going around you. Just want you to know I am not in love to him. Just want to tell you he is one of those.
Wow.
You can think whatever you like.
Yeah.
I'm not jealous, I'm just telling you. And then after that little confession, like
Yeah,
or
yeah,
advice,
yeah, yeah.
you have to think, is she unreal? Or he looks all right, but and then you start like, oh really?
Well,
Counting every
yeah.
word, thinking what is he
Yeah.
after, who is his mate. That's how we live life.
That's living in fear and paranoia constantly.
Yes.
Wow.
It was so constantly that we didn't really feel like we lived in paranoia. It was nothing to choose from.
Right.
It was nothing to choose
Yeah.
from.
So it's like this is your one and only choice.
Yes.
If you don't like it, tough. You've only got one choice.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, okay. In my head, I'll explain this to you, and hopefully you can help me solve this equation.
Okay.
So you've got creativity, right?
Yeah.
Creativity is about freedom of expression,
Yes.
being able to literally take the top of your head off and let ideas and things pour out.
That's right.
And then you've got such a closed, tight-knit, almost hand around the throat grip of communism. How do you reconcile those two fundamentally different things? One which is total open freedom, one where the state has a stranglehold on you.
Totally open freedom would be, what's the word? Greeted by mental hospital or political structures.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Really.
So when you're saying, when you're telling me that you are creative during, like when you were a child, and then you kind of go all the way through, it's creative with boundaries.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
We lived in codes, formulas, hidden meanings, hints, things like that. Everything was coded.
And that was all the way through school,
Yes.
like the whole lot.
Yes.
Now, when you were, as I said, I was 15 when the USSR started to break apart, and you were a little bit older. We'll just go with a
pretty
little
much,
bit older.
yeah, around 10 years older. Yes.
And you were had you done university at this point in time to get your masters, or when you finished school, did you go and start studying?
Yes.
Like in university.
Immediately.
Wow.
Next year.
So you were still very much in that grip.
Yeah, because this is how it went. It was very traditional. Nobody took any school gap years or anything. It was you finished your school, zoop, you go to university if you go. Somehow it was very, very traditional to do that. Girls did immediately, then boys, then they were 18.
Yep.
They're usually taken for 2 years to serve Soviet army. And if they are taken after exams to
Yeah.
some university. Very often they were excused and they were taken to serve the army like few months through the year only.
Right. Okay.
Or if they
Yeah.
have a child in so very
Right, okay.
old, young age, or
Yeah.
maybe even married.
So that's
So-
that's almost mandatory military conscription
Oh
for men.
yes, oh yes,
Wow.
absolutely mandatory. And people were going to very often to pretend they are not right in the head. Yes,
Wow.
to get some mental health certificate.
Yeah.
Because think about it, how big percentage of men you know
Mhm.
who are completely not designed for army?
I think most men are designed for the army, right?
No, not all of them.
Most, but not all.
But those who completely not designed for the army,
Yeah.
army don't need them, really.
Right.
It's just, you know.
Yeah. So I
So-
could say I'm overweight. I have a mental health disorder. Look, I'm the wrong guy for you.
Exactly.
Just give me a pass.
Then you go to art school and
Cool.
they leave you at peace.
So you either fight in the army or you're mentally
Yes.
unstable and go to art
Artist.
school. And you're artistic.
Yes. Yes.
It's good to see times haven't changed. What made you pick textiles?
Not exactly my choice. It was a little bit of situations choice and friends' suggestion.
Hang on, are we talking suggestion? Like, as in you don't have a choice, this is what you're going to study? Or
No, it was like I was a representative from my friends group.
Right.
I was always in the side which was not exactly the Soviets for anything. So I just want you to know that Lithuania is situated in the map in such a way that we have countries
Yeah,
surrounding us,
yeah.
which these countries we always were in a war, in some forced, dirty union,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
occupied it, always like this,
Wow.
always. Something from one or from the other side.
Yeah.
And through all these years, we succeeded to keep our language. This is what I believe is our best work we did. And not just language to save was very important, to
Yeah,
save
yeah,
culture
yeah.
in general. So
Yeah.
I was in the group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
We were fighting for Lithuania's
Bit of a rebel.
freedom.
Were you a bit of a rebel?
Not a bit of.
Just a whole lot?
Yes, I was sacked from art academy because
Really?
of yes,
Got kicked out of the academy
Yes.
because you weren't.
because
You
I
no longer towed the Communist Party line.
yes.
You badass, you.
Yes, I had to wait for 2 years,
Yeah.
and then they took me back. The rector has changed, and I've got all the apologies. But I will never forget that day when he said, "Look, the pot is so cooking here about you,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
best you go. I don't want you to go. You're a very good student, but best you go. It will be best for all of us. I ensure you place, then you'll come back. You'll come back." And he said, "Don't sing so loud, because you see, I was singing Lithuanian songs,
Right.
traditional,
Yeah.
old ones, and
Drawing attention to yourself.
yes.
Right.
Yes, so he said, just sing a little bit softer so they don't hear you so much in these 2 years, and you will be back.
So you get back into university, college, and you continue your master's degree,
Yeah.
and you finally get it
Yes,
for the win.
finally got it.
Finally. 2 years longer than anticipated?
Yes.
Yeah. Takes a little bit of time. What did you do during those 2 years, just out of curiosity? Did you do much singing?
I was doing singing.
Yeah.
I was. They couldn't shut me
Good.
down.
Brilliant. Damn the man.
Yeah.
So after you got your masters, what did you do from that point onwards?
Yeah, well, I was lucky. I worked at the theatre.
Oh, very nice. The theatres, often they're portrayed in the movies as being these very beautiful, opulent, very lot of history and depth behind them. Is that how they are?
Could be.
Not the ones you.
No,
no?
not exactly. I would say depends on the genre, depends on
Right.
wherever you are.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
That's what we had very strong. We had very strong theatre school, and that is, by the way, it comes from Russia as well. Russia had very strongly standing theatre school. So did Lithuania.
I think some of the most powerful plays have come out of USSR. Chekhov
Yes.
being the one that
Yes.
just sort of comes straight off the top of my
Yes.
head. The Seagull is just a
Yes.
phenomenal piece of work.
Yes.
So you were out and you're doing your singing and you're in different theatres. Where do you sort of move to from that point onwards?
Oh, then I've got my first child.
Really?
Yeah, and all my theatres pretty much ended up at home for time being.
yeah,
But I never
yeah.
stopped singing in that little group of Triskateriose, you tried to to pronounce. So that I always had.
I'm not going to butcher it
No,
again.
don't.
No, it's not too
Don't.
I normally try to be pretty good with linguistics, but I'm not going to be as good as that. That's amazing. Okay, so you're still doing the singing. You're still hanging out with your group of friends and
Yes.
doing the ancient traditional Lithuanian songs.
Yes,
By this stage, there is no more USSR. It's just Lithuania, right?
it's just Lithuania.
Yeah. So now you can be proud and you can sing to your heart's content and not worry about the man looking over your shoulder.
Yes, that is what theoretically we think could happen.
Right.
I
But
think it happened different things. Then that is my opinion.
Yeah.
Then people who were deprived from freedom
Yeah.
suddenly get it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what to do with that.
Makes sense.
I felt like the freedom is going out through the windows. I felt like people are putting freedom like a butter on
I was putting it on
a
everything.
slice of bread and just eat it. To tell the truth, I had difficulties to watch that. Period was very hard for me. I
Wow.
couldn't stand. Everything dropped. That lifted sternum to stay honestly proud of your roots and everything. Suddenly everything was for sale. Everything you can buy, everything you can sell, everything was making money because
Yeah.
in Soviets we couldn't own anything, was nothing private. Suddenly you
yeah.
can buy a house, you can have a business, you can run a business, you can be this, you can be that. And
It's easier to buy jeans.
Oh yes, you
And
can
shoes.
have 4.
You get 4 pairs of jeans and splash out.
Yes. So that is the time then I understood that it's time to go into the world and see how people eat that freedom where they had it.
Well, that's all they've known.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Where did you go?
To Sweden.
Sweden.
Mm.
Lots of amazing metal bands have come from. So I
Yes.
listen to a lot of metal. Some great metal bands have come out of Sweden. I'm guessing you went there for different things.
I was there for a little bit different things.
Yeah.
I read one book written by Björk Vasme.
Mm-hmm.
She is a Norwegian author, but the languages are very similar. And that book put spell on me. And I
Really?
really want to see how Scandinavia lives the life.
Yeah.
And as I was studying mythology, I was studying all the culture, as I told you Soviets were a very multicultural
Yes.
country.
Yeah.
So I knew so much from Scandinavian culture. Also, I've studied costumes, so the
Yeah.
Scandinavian traditional costumes, it was just amazing for me. So I thought I would like to try to live there. And as we were allowed to,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I did so.
Yeah.
I took my daughter, she was 8 years old, and
Oh,
off
wow.
we went to Sweden.
No. And what was it like living in Sweden compared to Lithuania, for example? Apart from the freedom thing, because obviously that's a huge thing. That's not like, oh, they've built a new house next door, let's go have a look. That's like, I'm going to take everything I've known for X amount of years and I'm just going to chuck it all out the window. And here's this new thing that I've wanted, but now I don't know what to do with it.
I didn't really want to chuck anything through the window. I wanted to add
Right,
into
okay,
my
yeah.
cultural suitcase, if you want.
There you go.
This is where I learned to be a foreigner. I'm still
Well, yeah,
learning.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
here I am a foreigner.
Yeah.
And it's sort of outsider.
Do you feel like it? Did you feel like an outsider in Sweden?
Yes, very muchly so.
Okay. How long were you there for?
10 years.
Wow.
Swedes are very closed society.
Okay.
They are very
Focused on traditions?
Yes.
Focused on their culture?
Yes.
So like a different version of Lithuania?
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different. They do not. Now they are forced to learn because foreigners are everywhere
Western
now.
world, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I lived in a little village and I felt it all the time. Even
Wow.
at school, I remember my daughter coming from school and saying, "Oh, Mom, my friend is not allowed to be my friend anymore." I said, "What's happened?" She says, "Yeah, well, this is what I heard from her." She said, "My grandmother doesn't know your grandmother. My mother doesn't know your mother. Therefore, we cannot be friends." That was like a knife between the ribs.
Yeah.
You know?
That would be tough if you were adopted.
Yeah, pretty much.
It would be damn near impossible.
Yes.
You'd have no mates ever.
Yeah.
Just throw that out there.
Yeah.
So, in Sweden for 10 years, and you're doing textiles, what were you working, or were you primarily focused in like costume making? What were you sort of doing at the time?
I was working a little bit. The funniest work I did, being Mrs. Flowers, I worked as a florist in the flower shop.
No, you're
Yes.
kidding.
No,
You can't
I
make
know.
that up.
Just
That's-
like now
yeah.
I live in the Garden Hill Lane.
Yeah.
Who could think of that?
It seems like the universe has given you a subtle,
I
well,
think
not so
so.
subtle hint, really. That's
Yes.
amazing. And then from Sweden, you came to New Zealand?
Yes.
Or did you kind of do some, like, tripping around along the way?
That is exactly.
You went
It
some
just
tripping.
was one big trip.
Like a big-ass holiday, yeah?
The biggest mistake we made, 2 mistakes.
Right.
We left Europe on the spring and came to New Zealand in winter
Why would you leave in the spring? It's just getting the warm
because
part.
of the documents.
Oh,
We're supposed to leave on the
right,
autumn,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
was
yeah.
so much rigmarole,
Yeah,
so much
ah.
that we just had to take another
Yeah.
half of a year. Then another mistake. What did I think of another mistake we
I don't
made?
know.
Oh, that's right. We got into a very long world trip with 4 years old daughter.
Is this your second child at this point?
Yes.
Okay,
She
so-
was born in Sweden. My second child
So
was born in Sweden.
you've got a, at this point, 18-year-old? Is she 18?
She was...
She was 8 when you moved to Sweden,
Yes,
and
she
then 10
is
years. so
17 now.
17,
Yes.
yep. And a 4-year-old.
Yes.
And then you go, you know what's a really good idea? Let's go see the world.
Exactly. You know, to travel with a baby whom you can feed with a breast
Yeah,
milk,
oh, yeah.
that is
yeah.
very simple.
Yeah, that's easy
To go
as.
with child like 13, 14, they're already interested in the tasting foods and everything, and can carry their
Boys
backpacks.
and partners and stuff.
It's cool.
Yeah.
But the 4 years old was the biggest mistake. It was really tiring for a child and for us, of course.
And parent as well.
But this is how we went. From Sweden, we went through Denmark to Lithuania, spent some time there, said goodbye to everyone. This is, by the way, when I saw my father last time.
Oh.
Then we went to Switzerland, stayed some time with my sister, she lived there. Then we went to Italy, because my friend said, "You're not gonna leave Europe if you not visit me in Italy, I have a badge there." So we went to Italy. Then we went to Germany. Then we flew to Costa Rica, where my oldest daughter was graduating school.
Germany to Costa Rica.
Yes.
That's a hell of a flight in itself.
Then to USA. And then to New Zealand.
Okay. Wow.
To the glorious Northland's winter.
The winterless north.
Oh, yeah.
Are you being artistic along this journey, or is it just kind of, I'm going to be a mum? I just put art on the background, on the back burner a little bit.
No, I was not just a mum. I was a mum. I tried to be the best mum, but my arts couldn't sit under the bed.
Right.
In Sweden, I learned to weave in traditional way, on traditional looms. This craft in Sweden is so popular. Like in Lithuania, every lady is knitting or doing crochet.
Knitting needles and stuff. Yeah.
In Sweden, so many ladies weave. So many.
Weave?
Yes.
Wow.
So I went to Folk University.
Okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
With all my master's degrees, I went to Folk University and learned to weave. So I learned to do everything, pretty much to grow the lin, or to cut the sheep wool, to prepare it, to make garn, to do everything.
Wow.
This is what I wanted, to taste that.
Well, you're doing everything from the ground up, right?
Exactly.
You know, if you're doing it right from scratch, then you get to see the whole process through.
And then you respect everything.
Yeah, 100%.
Then you do respect. So, as the pattern of weaving, Lithuanian and Scandinavian are very similar, I learned to weave. And until now, I think that is one of the most haunting occupation a woman can have.
It's very how do I describe? So growing up, my mum, she had one of those. You'd buy a bag of wool and you'd put it through the spinning wheel, and she would just sit there, and just do it.
Yeah.
I, of course, thought that foot thing was a drum pedal, so I used to get on there and pretend I was it was like a bass drum, and I grabbed the knitting needles. I'd be like, I'm a fucking rock star. Anyway, but it's one of those sort of things where you are just totally engrossed, and you're focused and disciplined on the task at hand, and you kind of block the world out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you got to New Zealand and the wonderful Whangarei Northland region, did you continue with that as well?
I wanted, but I didn't.
Is it because New Zealand doesn't have enough sheep?
No, I brought enough material.
One suitcase of clothes, one suitcase of material.
To set up the traditional loom, actually, it's not one person's job.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's a friendship of women, and that art is...
A community circle,
yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And somehow, a different vibe.
Oh, yeah.
In this part of the world.
Yeah.
It's different
Absolutely.
vibe. I still have these looms. I have 2 very old looms, and I am planning to make sculptures of them.
Wow.
Because I understood that I will not come back to this art like I don't come back to country I lived or husband I had.
Yeah.
It's just move on.
Right, so you look at that period of time in your life and you go, that belongs to that period of
Yes.
time. I don't need to revisit
No.
it. I'm ready to move on to my next chapters.
Exactly.
So what are your next chapters? See what I did there? That's a leading question.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
How
Very
you lead the
complimentary.
questions.
I know. We try.
Mm.
It's the second hard-hitting question in this.
Yes. So, leaving Sweden,
Yes.
I dived into healing arts.
Okay, what is healing arts?
It's just a way to heal people without medicine,
Oh, wow.
without chemical medicine.
Yeah.
I graduated Alternative and Sport Medicine Institute in Stockholm.
Amazing.
And then I came to Sweden, to New Zealand, sorry.
Yes.
I already had a little bit of experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I started my little clinic from home.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you still undertake creativity as well?
Yes, that is a creativity as well. The way I
Because it's
see.
all sort of overarching,
Yes.
right? It all fits into one ecosystem.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
So your creativity and your productivity and your healing all go hand in hand, and they work alongside one another. They don't go, well, after 6 o'clock I'm going to sit down and do this, but during the day I'm going to do this.
Very often that's what happens. And I'm a
Wow.
gardener, so sometimes I really struggle to clean my nails right before I have some patience. You go from the garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So, wow. So it's you could look at your life and go, and it has been. It's been a hell of a journey along the way.
Yes, it has.
But it's also informed who you are now, because there are a lot of things that you can look at in your life and go, well, they've all led me to where I am, and that's where you're meant to be right now,
True.
which is sitting with me in a studio
Yeah.
having a
it's really
podcast.
chill.
I know, it's a nice comfy chair too. It's
Very.
also you can actually also flick the legs out.
My God.
Again, I could have told you about this earlier, and we could have
you
had like
should
the
do
most
it earlier.
ultimate comfy.
True. Oh.
Okay, and you know what? You'd have been the first person, because I haven't busted this out yet in any
here you
podcast. I
go.
know. I'm going to put it back now. So, as someone who works in alternative medicine, and someone who has been through such an incredible journey to get where you are, what advice would you give to creative people throughout Northland and the world? Because, we have people that listen to these podcasts in India. It's very cool.
Oh.
Yeah. We are global.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. As someone who went through what you went through and ending where you are now, and being someone who's focused on alternative healing and being at one with your surroundings, would you have any advice for people like myself or some of our other listeners or viewers?
I am much better to give advice than it's needed for the situation. But all I can say, be yourself.
Be authentic.
Be authentic, be yourself, and don't bury bits what you think might somebody will not understand.
That's the hard part about being an artist,
Yes, I know.
is actually putting yourself out there.
I know. This is how I started singing solo now.
Yeah.
I could never believe I would do it. I was always singing with other people,
Yeah.
and I felt extremely comfortable. But something what was in me, and I took it out now.
And here you are.
Yeah, according to the same advice. You
Yeah.
see?
Be genuine.
Yes.
Be
genuine.
Be you.
Yes.
Don't be someone else.
Then you will attract the others who are themselves, and
Yeah.
that's what we want, right?
I always, I didn't, who am I kidding? When I was younger, I always wanted to be like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because we all do, right? I got told someone. So there's a metal band that I really loved in a phase of my life called Pantera, and I always wanted to be like the lead singer Phil Anselmo. And I was in my let's say mid-20s, and someone said to me, "Don't be the second Phil Anselmo, be the first Mark Kelly." And I was like, "Yeah, that's good shit. Why haven't I heard this earlier? That's great." And then I just became a dick and did drama, and that was fine. And no one liked me, but I just didn't care.
That's why you
I
didn't get it
didn't
earlier.
Give a shit. I'm gonna be myself, and I don't care if you like me. Fuck you. But yeah, be authentic, right? It's the main thing. No, because we're all on a journey to figure out who we are.
Absolutely, yes.
And we're constantly learning and evolving on almost a daily basis.
Absolutely, yes.
So just be who you are at that moment in time.
Yes.
That's the easiest way to live your life, right?
Yes. That is the only way to live the life.
You'd think so.
I think so.
Other people would disagree.
I mean, to live.
To actually live, right?
To actually live.
Yeah.
To go through the days what you are given. There are many people who just what they eat, drink,
Yes.
sleep,
Yes.
fuck, and go on the holidays.
Yep.
They don't live.
No.
They don't live.
There's not a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Or they go to work, and they come
that's
home.
Right. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, some of us it's a 40-hour week, right? Some people it's 50. Some people work part-time, and some people only work on the weekends. But that's that's okay. It's all good. It's different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Nora.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. This has been just incredibly eye-opening. I always say after all of my guests, I always try and learn one thing. So I always get value out of talking with people. I'll be honest, I learned a lot.
Oh, thank
Today,
you.
I didn't learn one thing. I just learned a shit ton. So thank you for reaching out and wanting to be part of this. It has been amazingly cool, and yet another hidden creative talent in Northland that is absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, there you go, everyone. Who am I kidding? That was Nora Flowers, our wonderful guest. I had put the glasses back on in hopes that they wouldn't be as wet and saturated as they are. They're just. I'm just going to put them. I've just gone and put them on the little table in the middle. Nora Flowers, our guest. It's at this time of the podcast I like to sort of reflect on some of the things that I've learnt during the podcast, some of the cool things. There's a lot to unpack in this podcast. I mean, that's probably the easiest way to sort of talk about it. But when we'd finished the podcast, she shared something with us that she hadn't shared on camera. I say us, I mean myself and Editor Lee, who's in the background as well. She's driving the podcast tonight, so thank you, Editor Lee. She talked about 1992. Now, 1990 was when USSR got disestablished, Lithuania became its own country again. But 1992 is when they went on food rations. And you'd get these little coupons, essentially, and you could get like a bar of soap or a small block of cheese or milk or stuff like that. And you had to make them last for a month. Now, in New Zealand, we're incredibly fortunate to have, I don't believe, ever have been in that position. We might have been well before my time, but 1992, I was 17 years old, and I was still in high school, doing drama, funnily enough, and, to try and understand what it would have been like to be living in a time where, you had to use soap sparingly. You couldn't eat all your cheese because you weren't going to get any for the rest of the month. A lot of the basic things that we hadn't, that we take for granted was just not available to her for a few years. And it's really mind-boggling to sort of try and wrap your head around that. So if I pick something from the podcast, it was Nora's kind of ability to really dance to the beat of her own drum, no matter what she did. The challenges that she faced during the first part of her study at university towards her masters, then having to take a 2-year sabbatical, or almost a forced sabbatical as well, but then to come back and complete it. That, for me, that was probably the big thing, and then her moving to Sweden as well. So that's 2. But I think overall that rationing thing that she talked about, once we were off camera was just, it's a real struggle to get my head around, but I'm sure there's other parts of the world that it's like that at the moment. So yeah, guys, never take what you've got for granted. Always be thankful for what we have, and always have gratitude. There you go. That's quite cool. I'm going to flick to my camera now, glasses off and everything. Really powerful podcast, this one. We've had other ones where we've gotten like really deep, and we've talked about some really intense topics and incredibly emotional stuff. But I guess as someone who's lived in New Zealand all my life, and I've never even travelled outside of New Zealand. I don't really have any reference or gauge that I can kind of relate to what she went through. So yeah, for me that's pretty incredible. So look, if you're still here and you're still watching or listening to this, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. You can find us across our socials. I'll give them to you now. For the visuals, we've got Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. All Northland Artists Conversation. It'll be scrolling somewhere down here. And for the audio, we've got Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Google Podcasts is now gone and is now part of YouTube Podcasts. So you can actually also find our audio podcast on YouTube as well. And if you are, if you're an artist that's in Northland, man, we'd love to hear from you. We can either do in the studio or we can do remotely. We set up for that now. Or if you know someone that would be a great guest for us, or even if you're a guest that's been on before and you've got something cool to talk about, man, we'd love to hear from you. The best way to do that is just email us. It is hello@northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. Again, that's going to be somewhere down the bottom here. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool. We've got some great guests coming up. And, we're going to have some more amazing ones as well. I'm going to flick to my wide camera. As I said at the start, I'm still saturated. The clouds really let me know who was boss. And I now look like I'm wearing Spanx. Or some kind of tight spandex thing. Honestly, it's just gross. So, on that wonderful high note for the middle of winter 2024, my name is Mark Kelly on behalf of myself and the entire Northland Artists Conversation team. Thank you so much for choosing us to be a podcast of your choice, and we will see you guys real soon.